Oh
So,
my
hello
God!
everyone, and welcome to this Destiny Movie Night Hangout, where we are going to discuss the movie Old Boy, The Revenge, and going to specifically focus on the revenge. And I have with me here two participants, and it's Maya Roth, and you are in California. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm in Berkeley, California
Okay.
right now. Yes. Hi, everybody.
And then we have Mike McDonald, and you're in Canada, and Ontario.
The city is Ottawa. So yeah, the country, Canada, province, Ontario.
Ottawa.
Ottawa, Canada.
Oh, Ottawa. Okay. All right. So before we begin, I want to say that you that are watching this, you can participate with questions, and we will answer them. So the first question here, Maya, what is revenge? And if you could also relate it back to the movie a little bit.
Okay, so the movie is basically should I just give like a small overview of the movie?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay. So the movie starts with this guy being basically kidnapped and put away in a small room for 15 years. He doesn't know who took him. He doesn't know why. And for 15 years, you can see his kind of what's going on in the room. And basically, he's planning his revenge of finding out who did it to him and revenging them. The movie unfolds when he is released from that room, and then his journey for revenge starts. And then you find out that he was there as part of the guy that put him there was revenging something that happened 30 years ago, and it's just this revenge going back and forth. It's a revenge cycle. So what is revenge in the context of the movie? And in general, I would say it's the belief that something was done to you, you were wronged by someone, and now this energetic motivation of payback. That would be a short way of saying it.
Yeah. So what points of revenge are then justified by society, Mike?
Retribution, an eye for an eye. Like you know, you attack me, so I attack you. Going to war, basically. That the means must justify the ends. So it's from that perspective, it's easy to see why war is such a big part of popular culture in society, because it's patriotic to live out the revenge, because otherwise, you're regarded as weak or cowardly if you don't stand up and enact your revenge.
Yeah, that's interesting. And we also have, for example, this point of capital punishment, prison,
Right.
the death penalty. All of those, they actually stem from this principle of taking revenge.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. I can just add to that. It's very interesting that in all levels, like even in relationships, between friends, there's that justifiable revenge where you have conversations of people and they say, "Oh yeah, you should do that." And it's like it almost like we justify. I will validate you, putting revenge on someone, so I can validate myself, and we validate the country, so we can have our perceived safety. And so I think society does that to justify themselves in a way.
Big time.
so
It's like there's this point of camaraderie around revenge, like where
Mm.
everybody gets together and is like, yeah, we all want to stick it to so and so.
Yeah.
So Maya, do we see revenge as something normal?
I think in our society, yes, revenge is very normal, and like you said, with capital punishment, it's even in a way glorified and accepted by law. And even with parenting, you can see parents will teach their children, if they do this to you, you gotta fight back. You know, it's okay to. In all levels of our society, we have the justification of revenge. I think it's definitely seen as normal and accepted as such, you know?
So, I mean, okay, it is normal, but would you say it's something preferable, Mike?
Mm.
I mean, no, it's not really preferable, but I think, you know, that question opens up a point of awareness where the play out of revenge, I think the consequences are not so immediate to ourselves that, you know, when you're acting out revenge, it's from a starting point of being in an energetic possession where you've created such emotional attachment to a particular relationship, and you feel, well, you're kind of stuck or lost within the point that you feel it's the only way to go is to keep moving within it, which is tragic and unfortunate. But it's often at times difficult for a person to step out of that and kind of, you know, step aside or let go of the revenge because it's really a point of build-up that's already built up so much, and you just want to keep going. And the revenge is righteous in that, you know, you feel you get the release, the vengeance through just the play out of acting it out, which perpetuates our own demise to a certain extent.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Okay, go for it, Maya.
No, I agree with that, and I like what you said about the building it up, because there's really a feeling of momentum build up, and at some point, if it's like it builds up and it builds up, and you become possessed by it, and it just builds up that momentum where it feels almost like there's this turning point where you can't turn back. It's like you can't stop this vehicle. It's moving too fast and it's too heavy, and the stopping it would be a deliberate effort, and all that comes along with doing something deliberately, almost like against our nature, against what feels so natural to follow this snowball of revenge that just would keep going and going if we don't stop it.
So Maya, in terms like how you have experienced revenge, you would then say that it's not produced any sort of beneficial consequences for you or
Never.
But then the question would be, why has it been so difficult to let it go?
There's a sense of wanting to be right, and there's a sense of like holding on to victimization, where I was wronged, like someone did something to me, and they obviously did it with all the intention of hurting me, and I need to teach them a lesson, and now my biggest responsibility and goal in life is to teach them a lesson. And it's like it doesn't even go, like it doesn't benefit anything really. Like the only thing that would benefit would be to come to a point that I can basically forgive the past, that I can take responsibility for my part in whatever the situation was, you know, grow from it, learn from it, as opposed to just maintain this cycle that then, just like you were mentioning earlier, wars. Once one region does this, and then the other people do that, and then it just goes into endless. There's always going to be something in the past that you can seek revenge for, and then you do the action, and then the other side has something in the past to seek revenge for. So
it's like a perpetual cycle of getting nowhere at all.
Yeah, basically. Well, just getting worse and worse. It's not even getting nowhere. It's like it's just deteriorating the situation. Yeah.
Destructive.
So,
very destructive.
Mike, you know, is there some kind of fear connected to this that we don't want to let go of this destruction cycle that revenge actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. That I would say is the root cause of it, really. I would say it's rooted in fear of loss, like this sense of giving up, like a point of dispowerment, um, which is ironic because, through enacting out the revenge, you believe yourself to be righteous, or you have that experience of righteousness and powerful where you put down another person to prop yourself up. But that's a false front, so to speak, which is exposing the fact that it's lowbrow. You're actually at a low, like in a point of inferiority, and so your fear is got you by the balls, so to speak.
Hmm.
So we use revenge as a sort of prop up to sort of, oh my God, this
Yeah,
world is so mean to me, I gotta fight it back, and if I don't, it will destroy me, or something
big
like that.
time, big time. It's a coping mechanism, really. Like where it's a point of validation, like proving yourself, feeling like if you don't, stand up for yourself and assert your authority by, taking authority over somebody else in a conflictual relationship, then you've been begotten or you've been bullied or beat up.
Yeah,
When, the nature of it is kind of, it's like there's this disenfranchisement between yourself and the other party, where the nature of the relationship is a dissonance, where there's, this agreed conflict between the two parties, that you're 2 points of comparison and that you're never actually standing on equal ground as a point of support for the other. So it's a constant back and forth, fuck you kind of attitude.
yeah,
Yeah, and I would add to that also the fact that it's like a distraction. So, um, like if I go back to the movie, both participants that were taking revenge, they experienced loss. The one had his thing from the childhood, and the other one lost 15 years of their life. And and again, it's like that fear of facing that loss, or that fear of just letting go of that, and then instead of building yourself from that point and taking responsibility for that point, you're distracting yourself completely by seeking revenge. Like, I don't know how much I want to give away from the movie for those of you that haven't seen it, but the guy that took revenge, that put the other guy in prison, um, I mean, even after 15 years of dedicating his life to this revenge, that wasn't enough, and he ended up um, not a happy camper. So, like, it really doesn't solve anything. He just basically put his life on hold, distracting himself from solving the issue and actually being at peace with it. Instead, he just enhanced it for 15 years or 30 years or as long as it was, and made it all of his life. And then when that chapter was done, he didn't, it's like he didn't remediate what was actually the problem. He just created this huge other thing, and he was left with nothing, basically. So it kind of takes us away from ourselves in such a way where when the revenge is up, you have to do a big process to have even someone to come back to, like after you've gone away from yourself for so long.
and then another point here is that both characters in this movie, they actually created consequences for others. I mean, if we look at, for example, I will give away the movie here now, so it's
Okay.
spoiler. Yeah. So the one guy that locked in the other guy, he was pissed off because his sister had been bullied and she had committed suicide because they had an affair together, the brother and the sister, and the guy that was locked in had looked at and observed this event, and then he had shared that information, and it become a rumor, and that caused the bullying. But I mean, if we look at this point, how did this brother cause this situation? Well, firstly, he was very careless when sort of uh, starting this passionate relationship because it, in essence, did it without making sure that nobody could see it. So it took a chance, and it was because he was, all up in flames and wanting to, experience that passion and have sex. And so, if we look at it from his perspective, I mean, he could actually have realized that, oh, I actually created this situation, but what he did instead was that he blamed the person that had observed and then shared the information. So that is also interesting how when we go into this revenge and blame, we conveniently miss our part in the process of creation.
Yeah, totally. What's so funny or ironic and tragic about that is that we believe we have no choice in the matter but to, extract the revenge. When in actuality it's a choice to believe that we must enact revenge.
Yeah, and and again, in that, the point of choice and realization is also for the brother, the guy that incarcerated the other. Um, the reason why that whole thing even went out of hand was because they were holding on to shame for what they did, which,
Mm.
and whether right or wrong, and how our society sees sexuality and whatever siblings and whatever is, but they personally took it as a point of shame, and the whole society around them saw it as a point of shame, and they accepted it. And then that also is part of their creation of that snowball, which she then ended up taking her life as well. So definitely paying attention to your part of the creation.
Yeah.
And how we can, I mean, there's so many points on the way where we could have stopped it. Like, we could have made a choice not to go and seek revenge. We could have made a choice not to see it as shameful. We could have made a choice of realizing that the other person is, for whatever reason, sharing because he's feeling whatever that he needs to do in this sharing thing. So there's many points along the way where you can kind of wake up and see what's happening in a different way, like have a different perspective on reality that will have outcomes that are beneficial rather than destructive.
Yeah. And it's also interesting that, even when facing these events that are seemingly horrible and they destroy everything that we hold dear, they are actually great opportunities to learn something about ourselves. And but that requires that we ask ourselves that question, how did I create this? Which implies responsibility. And then there can't be no blame and revenge because, well, that's a statement of I don't want to take responsibility for this.
It's almost the opposite in a way, because if something happens that initially I would perceive it as bad and wrong and something that I would seek revenge for, so if I would take that as the opportunity to see what my participation was and who I am within it and where I can grow from it, then from blame, the initial blame, you can switch to gratitude for having this opportunity to actually see yourself and check and investigate that whole situation on.
Yeah.
Totally.
So now we have sort of moved into a solution area here. So, Mike, how do you let go of revenge? Is it possible?
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. It starts with self-forgiveness. Like what Maya was saying, we can shift the paradigm there from blame to gratitude, and that really starts with the self-examination of our own reactions within the point that would drive us in a particular direction. So I like the phrase, check yourself before you wreck yourself,
Mhm.
because I mean, it's really simple, and if we embody that phrase all the time, we'll move through the self-forgiveness process and see that, okay, I'm out of alignment here, I'm in conflict with so-and-so and whatnot. How can I regain my footing here and equalize my stance and balance? so that we can come to solutions and move together in ways that are best and supportive for both parties. So through applying self-forgiveness on the specifics of the point has really helped me and garnered a lot of insight and understanding into myself, and basically expands my relationship with the person or the activity or event or whatever it is, and really opens up new possibilities in my world.
Yeah. So Maya, this self-forgiveness point and writing as well, writing yourself to freedom. Could you give like a short explanation of how you would use these tools practically to go through revenge, for example?
Yeah, so I would notice the reaction and the desire to revenge and the like that energy of hatred or anger that is going on. And then I would just write it out. Like I can start with just ranting it out, writing like kind of like a Dear Diary style, like just verbal diarrhea, vomiting it all out just to see what comes out. Or I can just start with self-forgiveness. So it depends kind of on the situation. Sometimes I feel like it's like if the energy is high, if I've allowed it to accumulate, then sometimes ranting is the easier first step to kind of get it out. And then I will look at what I'm writing, and I like that it's in written. So what happens when I think about it, and it doesn't have the same effect when I just think about the situation, I fuck with myself. So I think something, and then the thought kind of changes into something else, and then it changes into something else. It's really hard to pinpoint what's actually happening. But when it's written down, then I can't argue that, here, this is exactly what I wrote, this is who I am, this is how I see the situation, this is where I reacted, and then from the written information, I can then take it on and forgive myself and walk it point by point. You kind of take it out like threads and just look at every little point that comes up.
Yeah.
And take responsibility for it. And what I find is that specifically in relationships, when I'm writing about something in relation to another person, it really helps. Sometimes it just happens, and sometimes it's a deliberate decision to step into humbleness. It kind of brings me back down to humbleness, where I was like on this high tower feeling self-righteous and the queen that deserves this and this, and now we need to revenge. It kind of drops me back down to where we're all equally in this reality together, and kind of on an equal level, in a humble way, kind of approach the situation.
Yeah. So Mike, in terms of your relationships, close or not so close, have you noticed any difference when you've applied these tools? What has happened to your relationships?
Well, it's a funny story, really. It's basically as simple as I'm able to communicate effectively within the relationship and be a contributing part of the relationship for the growth and expansion and fun and playfulness. That's with self-forgiveness. Or points of resistance, conflict come up, and also an emotional roller coaster of an array of situations happen when I avoid or postpone the self-forgiveness. So it's kind of like your relationships are totally awesome, or they're fucked. That's what I've found.
That's a simple explanation.
Yeah.
So we have got a question from Marlon, and she asks, what do you say about the usual relation between honor and pride and vengeance? What would be real honor in a situation where a person would usually take revenge upon someone for what's been done? And Maya, what do you say about that?
Can you repeat that? I couldn't get the entire question.
What do you say about the usual relation between honor/pride and vengeance? what would be the real honor in a situation where a person would usually take revenge upon someone for what's been done?
Oh, that's a nice question, Marlon. Thank you. Um, so yeah, usually there's the honor and pride are connected. Like I'm gonna protect my pride and honor by um, revenging you for hurting my honor and pride, as if as if the other person owns my honor and pride to hurt it to begin with. Where in fact, your honor or pride and who you are and your integrity is, in a way, it's your business. So nobody can take it away or give it to you unless you allow that. So the real honor and pride would be to firstly recognize that nobody can take that from you. And if you've given it away, if you've given someone that power, then again, that's your place of investigation, of seeing why have you allowed yourself to dismiss yourself and to diminish yourself in that way. And then the second part of the question was what would be real honor and pride. So I think, again, just a point of taking responsibility and also recognizing that whatever is happening, we're all so plugged into our pre-programs. It's like everybody's operating like puppets. So within that recognition, you don't take things personally, but instead you work on yourself towards making sure that you don't fall into those pre-programs and patterns. So that's where the learning process happens. So if whatever situation happens, honor would be making sure that if that situation was unacceptable to me, I would never live that out through seeing that within me, forgiving myself, and making a deliberate decision to live in an honorable way rather than in a revengeful way. Like, how do they even connect? I don't know.
So what you're doing here, Maya, is like you're taking the word honor and you're actually changing it and giving it a new definition. And Mike, have you done that with some words as well? And have you noticed, how you can change your relationship to a word or a situation by changing the definition of it?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first words I ever looked at and really kind of investigated all the letters of the word was the word awesome, and I just played with the sounding of it, and with the spelling, and I was just sounding it out, and I was kind of like, aw, so me. So, the more I understand awesome, the more I understand myself, because it's all me, also me. And there's always some awe with awesome, and I began to see awesome as like a science. So the more I understand myself, the more I understand everybody else. So I only get it as much as I got it. So it's a point of self-trust, self-honesty, where I can embody, basically take on every point within myself, and then thus I can be the point of responsibility, and thus I'm able to respond in the moment as the point. So that was a pretty serendipitous point, I would say, in terms of opening up a huge exploration within words for me. And then to simplify even further my word exploration, I look at the nature of my relationship with any particular word to see if I have a positive or negative energetic charge attached to it. Because what I noticed is that those charges are like a buzz on my body, whether it be like a positive, like high feeling, or a negative low feeling, that both are creating a dissonance on my perspective and perception and my ability to participate with others in my world. So I would use the forgiveness process to remove any dissonance as the energies in relation to the word, and then I would play with the sounding of the word to see if there was any more meaning within the word, and then I would look to see if I can create a new all-encompassing definition that goes beyond my limited scope of the word.
Yeah. So, I
Nice.
mean, what we're in essence doing and showing here in this chat is how we can change our relationship to ourselves and the world by changing how we look at things and changing how we define words. And so, for example, we have discussed revenge in this chat, and to make it a little bit more interesting, we could ask ourselves, is there something we could learn from revenge? I mean, we have mostly looked at it as something bad, but maybe there is something we can take from it and make something beneficial out of it. So what would you say about that, Maya?
Well, that's an interesting point, because something that really did come up when watching that movie is the level of dedication that that man had to his revenge. Both of them, really. So in revenge, you very often see this high level dedication. A man will stop at nothing and he will get his revenge. So if taking anything from that word that you can learn from, it would be that we are capable of that dedication, and we are capable of setting our mind to do something and go after it and not let anything get in our way. So that's something that we can definitely learn from revenge, and just change the starting point from it being energetic and hateful, and that all-encompassing energy that is basically taking control over us, but making a deliberate decision and knowing that we can be dedicated to it and going after it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's also fascinating that we look at all these things that we do in the world, and I mean, I have been quite impressed about what we've actually been able to create in terms of the sheer effort that we have put into it. For example, I mean, let's take a war, the Second World War. I mean, people actually went out and sacrificed their lives, but they did it because of something completely stupid. So, so I mean, it's interesting. Couldn't we take all that determination and put it into something that would make a difference in this world? And what do you say about that, Mike?
Yes, we can. I see that as the way forward, really. It's a shift, and instead of channeling our efforts for means of destruction, like you say, it's ridiculous to look at the war mentality or the military-industrial complex that we have here in the infrastructure within war. That essentially we really should have here on Earth is it be a big playground, planet Earth, where it's just the most amazing place ever in all its capacities, because it's a perfect harmony on all accounts. So really, if you consider it from that perspective of like the Earth, like music, you see how much dissonance we've created in our relationships and words and the world, and so really, if we focus on changing the nature of our vocabulary and our understanding, then we're going to have a most amazing playground here. And it's kind of really at this point like trying to imagine a color that doesn't yet exist,
Hmm.
because it's beyond the scope of what is here in its full capacity. So I don't think we'll totally know the greatness of the potential that can come from moving in a direction and towards what's best for all, until we're standing here absolute within the point as a job well done kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I see we are running out of time, but we still have some minutes left. So I will move on to the next section, so to speak, and that is rewards. So I mean, let's imagine that the guy in the movie, both of them, they said, it's enough, man. Okay, I don't want to revenge anymore. I want to stop. What would you say would have been their reward, Maya?
Well, they would just be, they would have an opportunity to start a fresh life and whatever they would do with it, but the reward would have been to live their life rather than be caught up in such a limited version of their life, all dedicated for revenge. So it's like if life is an entire pie, they were, or a buffet or whatever, they were eating the meal of revenge every day over and over and over instead of actually enjoying the meal.
And can you relate to that from your own life, Maya? Have you seen the rewards of stopping something similar, like, for example, something similar to revenge?
Well, as Mike said earlier, a big reward is just change relationships where if I compare my relationships now to my relationships in the past, or even now, if I compare my relationships when I do kind of apply myself with self-forgiveness and self-responsibility into when I don't, it just opens up a whole new level of communication, and it allows us to relate to one another in a way that just feels good. It's the reward is that it just feels good to relate with people, not from a blaming, judgmental, way, but from I take responsibility. What I see is happening is that when I take responsibility, the other people in my life kind of step up more, and whereas before it would be who can blame each other more for what we've done. You did it, but no, you did it, but no, you did it. And now it's like, oh, but I actually did that, and I take responsibility for it. But no, but I actually did that. So it kind of just shifts completely. And I mean, in my relationships, I see a huge reward in just better communication. There's actually more intimacy where we can actually relate to another and open up and not judge each other as easily. And it just feels good. It's nice.
Yeah. So, Mike, the same question to you. What do you see would have happened to these guys? What would have been their reward?
The main reward I see here is time. To go along with what Maya said, is that they'd have time to open up gifts, presents for themselves, really, because that's it. When you step out of the conflict you're creating for yourself, life's a treat, really. Self-expression, like you can appreciate the simplest of things, whether it be just waking up in the morning and seeing the sun with a fresh set of eyes, or even going to the washroom and having your cup of coffee. Just the simple pleasures in life that are always here that get totally neglected when you're so focused on this one point of like enacting revenge. Like everything else kind of becomes a strain and as like separate shit that you just have to do. That's just kind of in the way of following that self-perpetuating self-destruction as the revenge. So really, what opens up is everything.
Very cool, Mike. So our time is up, and I'll throw it out there. Is there any last words you'd like to put in on this subject before we say quits for today?
I'm good.
Okay. So thank you everyone for watching. And the next week, next Friday, Friday 26th, Joanna will host a movie night, and it's going to be the movie Noah. And that's everything for us. So bye everyone.
Bye guys. Thanks.
Adios.